Hi, my name is Rebecca Holman, and today I'm going to be talking about Luby's cafeteria. So first of all, if you go to the first slide, you'll see I chose Luby's cafeteria because it's somewhere that I used to go a lot with my family. I have a lot of really fun memories of going and picking out what food I wanted, getting to have the jello that came with the kids' meal. So I thought it would be really interesting to look a little bit more into this company and find out something about them. Um, Most of you have probably been to a Luby's or maybe just seen it around. Luby's is a quick service restaurant that serves cafeteria style food. It is mostly comfort food, so you see things like fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, chicken fried steak. They have a famous fried fish, which is what they call the square fish, that kind of became a symbol of Luby's as well. They also offer a smaller portion plate for a fraction of the price of a normal serving, which they call the Luann platter. So that's really popular with a lot of folks, whether it's people who are just there for lunch and maybe don't have as much of an appetite, or elderly people who are a major part of their customer base. And they also do offer a lot of kids meal deals. So several nights of the week, usually you can go in and children under 10 can eat a free meal if an adult orders an adult entree. So that's a way that they really appeal to the family part of their market as well. A little bit of history about Luby's. So Luby's opened their first cafeteria in 1947, so they have been running for over 72 years. So Bob Luby was the man who created the first Luby's cafeteria in San Antonio, Texas. In 1959, the original partners formed what they called Cafeteria Inc. In 1973, Cafeteria Inc. became a publicly traded company and also changed their name from Cafeteria Inc. to Luby's Inc. So they are currently traded on the New York Stock Exchange as LUB. In 2001, the Pappas brothers joined the Luby's management team, and both of them are still active on it today, with Chris Pappas being their CEO and president. Subsequently, in 2004, the company did move their headquarters from San Antonio, Texas to Houston, Texas, where it still operates from today. In 2009, like a lot of companies, due to the recession, they were forced to close 25 of their locations, as well as a lot of staff layoffs that occurred during that time. However, in 2010, they did have a little bit of a comeback. Luby's was able to acquire Fuddruckers and Cuckoo-Roo. I won't talk a lot about those brands just because I'm going to focus on Luby's. Cuckoo-Roo, though, did actually close its last store here, if you see, in 2014, so they no longer operate, but Luby's does still own that trademark. So that's something that maybe potentially we could see them putting back into business at some point, and maybe utilizing that as some kind of money maker for the company. Luby's in 2013 was able to acquire the company Cheeseburger in Paradise. Currently, there is only one location operating, but again, that's somewhere where we see a lot of potential for growth, especially since it is already an existing brand, something that they can just expand upon and not have to do as much of the work with developing. Here we see again in 2014, Cuckoo-Roo's closing, and then in 2019, so just this year, Luby's Inc. has closed 27 different restaurants. That does include Fuddruckers locations and Luby's cafeteria locations. Part of this is in an effort to close underperforming stores. So stores where they're not making enough profit, they're able to close, and they're not having to pay all of that overhead to operate those locations. They're also able to make profit off of the real estate sales of those locations. So they're generating more profit by having these real estate sales, and they're also taking care of not having to continue to use their successful stores to pick up the weight from these stores that aren't being as successful. Luby's mission is pretty simple. They want to be the most innovative and successful cafeteria company in America. So like I said, they have been operating for 72 years, which is a very long time, although they've had their ups and downs, which we'll talk about a little bit. They are still very successful today. They also want to offer an excellent value and a friendly environment. So they've always focused on customer service. They really care about their community and their customers, but they also want to bring you a really good value. Here are the mission statements from some of their other companies on this next slide. The only one aside from Luby's that I will really focus on is going to be the Luby's Culinary Services. They started that segment of food service management in 2006, and currently they're operating in 32 different healthcare, corporate, education, and venues. They have a very family and community oriented culture, so they do offer different programs and incentives to help out their community. Two of those focus actually just on children. They have the Shining Star Certificate. An adult can nominate a child for good behavior, maybe just being kind or polite to somebody else. And if that nomination is successful, the student then gets a certificate for either a free kids meal or a free dessert. So that's a way that they can reward children in the community for going out of their way to do something good. There's also the Feed Your Brain program. So with Feed Your Brain, the student will read 6 books. They have their teacher and their parents sign off on those, and then they're able to redeem that for a free meal. So again, that's kind of good for parents and families as well as for the student, because the student's actually having to work to earn what they're getting there with their free meal. We also have fundraising. So if you're an organization in the community and you would like to have a fundraising event with Luby's, you coordinate it with their staff there. They provide you with a flyer, and then the night of your event, your organization will receive 15% of the profits made from anybody who shows that flyer when they check out. So you are potentially going to get back 15% of everything that they make from anybody who mentions or shows the flyer for that event. So that's a couple of ways that they give back to their communities there. A little bit more about Luby's Cafeteria. They do have a pretty wide customer base. So right now they do a lot of business with not only families but elderly people. It's very easy for somebody to go in, stand in the line, you go through the line, you can see all of the food in front of you. So if you are somebody whose eyesight is failing, or maybe you're a child who can't read, it makes it easier for you to make good choices because you can see the food there in front of you. So in that way, it really appeals to both of those crowds. It's also very fast. So if you're a family and you don't want your children to get too antsy sitting in a booth waiting for a waiter, you can go through the line, you get your food, you pay, and generally you can be out in 30 minutes or less. Same thing with the elderly or any kind of lone diners. If you're just there for maybe a quick lunch, instead of having to wait on servers to come take your orders and going through that whole process, you can go through, you can pick out exactly what you want, have it there with you right when you pay, and then really the only interaction you're doing with servers is maybe getting your sauces for you, refilling your drink, and then clearing your table for you after you leave. So you don't even have to wait for anybody to bring you a check, so that's another reason why it really appeals. Customers also see Luby's as a healthier option than fast food. So just like I was saying, it's very fast and easy to go into Luby's and get whatever kind of meal that you want to have. And you do have healthier options such as fresh salads, fish, chicken breast, things like that. There's also been a rise in popularity of quick service restaurants such as Panera Bread, La Madeleine, Zoe's Kitchen. All of these have created a lot more competition for Luby's. These are new and fresh. People sometimes tend to see Luby's as a little bit older and outdated. So this has created a lot of competition, something that Luby's has taken a few other steps to try to combat. So one of the things they've done is they did create Luby's Culinary Services. So they're able to reach a new customer base and a much larger customer base. There's also the frozen foods that they've started offering. So this is another innovation that they're making, following another trend that they are trying to become profitable with. Here's just a little summary about Luby's Culinary Services. So they do take over all of the food management services for a location. So it is a contract food service. One of the ways they set themselves apart from other food services that are similar is they have several different nutrition programs. So just like at the Luby's cafeteria locations, they're making everything fresh from scratch. And then on top of that, they've also implemented different programs that you can choose to put in place at your location if you would like, that give your employees or maybe your patients or even students healthier options, but also fast and easy to get them back on their way for maybe their next appointment or their next class or whatever. So they have the Livin' Smart. It offers entrees that are less than 600 calories, have at least 3 grams of fiber, and no more than 30% of the calories are from fat. So that's a really good choice that concerns all of your entrees. And then they also have Stealth Health, which is a similar program, except they're substituting ingredients that are generally unhealthy with things that are seen as healthier. So maybe making a brownie with pureed avocado, or making a marinara sauce that you have pureed vegetables and spinach in. So those are ways that they're really setting themselves apart from other contract food service companies and hoping to continue to be successful with this venture and build up the profits for the company. Here is a little bit about the frozen foods that they've offered. So again, you've seen this from a few other similar concepts like Bob Evans and Cracker Barrel. They both offer different foods that you can buy in the grocery store and take home and make. They're great because they have the name you love on them. You know that the recipe is something that you've had before, something that you really want to be able to just take home and have in an easier way than going out. It does also help them reach new customers. Again, maybe you haven't ever been to a Luby's, but you see the macaroni and you decide you want to try it. Whether you become a return customer of buying the frozen macaroni in the grocery store, or you even go out of your way to come eat in the restaurant and try it, hopefully we've created a new recurring customer through this program. Here I have a graph of the stock prices. So I did go all the way back to the beginning of 2019 because I think that the dip around summer is actually very interesting. Right around when our semester started, we started to see a lot of changes in Luby's upper structure, which did account for some of these jumps you see in their stock prices. So around the beginning of summer, you can see that the prices are actually going down and down and down. They kind of stagnate for a while, and then at the end of August, they all of a sudden jump up. So that is because they did add 2 new directors to their board of directors. Both of these gentlemen have extensive experience in quick service restaurants, chains, and franchises, and are hopefully going to bring a lot to this company. They're hoping to bring new value to the stockholders and really maximize that value for them. Again, we see a really big jump towards the end of September. That's actually where they announced a brand new special committee. So they formed a brand new special committee that's going to focus on their innovation and their further ventures. So here I have just taken the headlines and kind of the summary of these announcements that the company made. So it's just saying a little bit about both of those public announcements that they did make to their shareholders. So efforts to create profit, like I said, they are trying really hard to be more innovative. They've been closing their underperforming restaurants, which again, like I mentioned, is creating new revenue for them in a couple of ways by freeing up other revenues and not paying overheads, and also by getting the profits from the real estate sales. They're also transferring some of their Fuddruckers locations to franchisers. So the company owns most of their Fuddruckers locations and operates them. However, they've started in San Antonio. So far as of this presentation, they have already transferred 4 different company-owned Fuddruckers into the hands of a franchisor. So they're going to continue to do that with more of their locations. So they will be freeing up more of that overhead that they're paying, like I've talked about. And they're also still going to be receiving profits from the royalties of selling these to these franchisors. So they are also finding their new markets with their health food initiatives and their grocery stores. So those are ways that they're going to start to see more and more customers coming, hopefully, and really start to generate more profit. And then also, like I mentioned, we have the new board members and the new special committee that's formed. So those are two very big executive steps that they've taken to try to help and turn the company around a little bit and see more of their profits and reach their goal. What does the future hold? So I personally believe that we will probably see some expansion in the frozen food and grocery markets. So whether it's frozen foods that you can take home or just refrigerated foods that you can take home, I do think they're going to continue to expand on that, and that we'll see more of our fan favorites, that they call them, coming out and being available to people in grocery stores. I also think that we're going to see a lot more of their presence in the food service management. I think, again, like they've been doing, they've been trying to cut overhead in the food service sector. The food service management sector, is great for that because they can operate this entire kitchen, create all these menus, implement different programs for their customers and the consumers, and they're not having to pay that overhead. So it will generate a lot more profit for them being able to operate under those terms. I also think that we're going to see growth in their healthy food options that they have for their diners. So the programs I spoke about are currently only available for the food service contract, but I do think that in the Luby's cafeteria restaurants, we're going to begin to see more and more healthy options for customers because that's a market that is growing, and it will help bring back new customers who may just associate it with mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. I also think we're going to see them continue to focus on customer service. So being a quick service restaurant, although they do focus on being friendly already, you don't have a lot of interaction with the workers at the restaurant. So I do think that they're going to work a little bit more on having somebody who can make sure that the customer experience is all that they can make it. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Feel free to ask me anything, and I will reply with my best answer as soon as possible. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope that you learned a lot about the Luby's company.